About the Balls podcast
with Mark Davis, Krista Meinhardt, Luke Rule, Jake Winnikine, Alan Tomasella, and Nick the Doc Skirkle. Good evening. We are back after a long Thanksgiving break off. That's right. This is All About the Balls podcast. It is Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024. We are already in December. It is crazy that this year, 2024, has flown by pretty quick, in my opinion. It's been going by pretty quick. The NFL season, the college football season, they are flying by pretty quick. We are literally on the final month of both. We are literally just 5 games away from the NFL playoffs starting. College football, the conference championships are upon us. They are this weekend. Rivalry weekend was just this past weekend. We now know the rankings 1 through 12 for the college football rankings. We know the playoff bracket as well. We will talk about that. Doc will be joining me momentarily. He is just getting signed on, and we will be in full force here to talk NFL, talk college football. We have a lot to talk about. A lot of things happen. The Detroit Lions, the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to talk which of those two teams is the best team in the NFL, because that seems to be the argument. The Detroit Lions or the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to talk the AFC best team potentially is at the Buffalo Bills. They are the hottest team in the AFC as they just won a nice snowy game against the San Francisco 49ers. Clinched the AFC East, so congratulations to the Buffalo Bills. We're going to talk the state of the Chicago Bears. That will be Doc's conversation, as he is our local Bears fan. They fired Matt Eberflus the day after Thanksgiving, the day after the debacle of the timeout situation. Can't wait to talk about that with Doc. We're going to talk the sliding of the quarterbacks. The quarterback situation, Trevor Lawrence, we just saw what happened with him. We're going to talk about, is there a situation with the defensive players, or is it a quarterback situation where they're putting themselves in harm's way? We're going to talk the Pittsburgh Steelers. Are they Super Bowl contenders legitimately? We had this conversation a few weeks ago, and I want to revisit that because their offense seems to be clicking. The defense, had a struggling game against the Bengals, but the Bengals have a good offense in general. The Atlanta Falcons, that's my team. We're going to talk their situation. Is it time for Kirk Cousins to be benched? Is that a kind of conversation that the Atlanta Falcons should be having going forward? And we're going to talk the surprise of the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers, currently the 5 and the 7 seed in the AFC. Both of them are playoff bound at the moment, and that is something that we can't wait to talk about. We're also going to talk the college football madness. The rankings just came out today. We're going to talk, should it be Alabama or Miami? Did the college football playoffs committee get it right with Alabama being the final team in over the Miami Hurricanes? Or should it be the Hurricanes over Alabama? And then we'll talk potentially if SMU loses to Clemson, should SMU still be in over Alabama? Or should the SEC have a 9-3 team win, a 9-3 team over an 11-2 loser in the ACC, because Clemson would get in by virtue of winning the ACC championship? And we're going to talk Ohio State, how they really choked against the Michigan Wolverines, and how the committee only dropped them 4 spots, which I thought was a little bit, in my opinion, ridiculous. I don't think Ohio State should have been number 6. I think they should be in the top 12, but I think they should be below Tennessee, potentially below SMU. SMU wouldn't really matter, though, because if they win the conference, they're going to have a first-round bye. I do think, though, Tennessee, because by that, it would be probably Tennessee and the Ohio State Buckeyes in Columbus. But, Doc, welcome aboard, man. Happy late Thanksgiving. The Bears, I just mentioned, we're going to talk about them. They fired their coach the day after Thanksgiving. You got your Christmas wish the day after Thanksgiving. Also, the Florida State Seminoles did hire UCF's former head coach as offensive coordinator. So how are you doing, man? How's Thanksgiving, and how are you doing mentally?
Thanksgiving was all right, man. Kid had the stomach bug, so that sucked. But Eberflus is gone, and that's the next most important thing. And, life is looking up for the Bears.
You seem like you almost given up on football this past weekend. You had a lot of things happen. Like
I have.
Well, when I meant like giving up, I thought you weren't going to be on the show no more. You left Discord. I was shocked because I was going to tag you about, hey, Eberflus got fired. You got your wish. And I was like, damn, Doc's name's not popping up. Did you change your name? And I was like, no, he left. And I was like, damn, no one gave him a hard time on Thursday. And then Josh Allen's receiving/passing touchdown. I thought that threw you over the edge.
I ain't talking about that.
To be honest, that didn't really matter because Bo Nix didn't have that good of a game anyways, points-wise, to matter for that. So even if you take away that 6 points, you still would have lost. But, yeah, I thought you were on suicide watch, honestly, after this weekend.
It's still up in the air. My participation in football for the rest of the year is heavily up in the air.
Well, Doc, we're gonna have an exciting time, and let's just start off, man. I mentioned this was you didn't join, you weren't here when I first introduced it, but the topic has been definitely in the NFC, and it has trying to transition to the NFL. The Detroit Lions, the Philadelphia Eagles. Which team is the best team going forward, at least in the NFC? You can, like I said, you can argue NFL. Doc, this moment going forward right now on December 3rd, 2024. Who is the best team out of these two? Is it the 11-1 Philadelphia Eagles, or is it the 10-2? I'm sorry, the 11-1 Detroit Lions, or the 10-2 Philadelphia Eagles?
It's tough. The Eagles are really good at controlling the game, controlling the pace of play. Saquon Barkley obviously was a huge addition for this team. I don't know. Eagles did a lot of impressive things without, a lot of the stars in the offense with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. Defense has been playing well.
Number one defense right now, I think, in yards per game.
Yeah. So this is, and we talked about this at the start of the season. This is something we expected. They've got a stacked defense. We didn't really see it, I don't think, as well last year, and they added a couple of pieces this year. But I think last year they were just as good on paper. But I don't know. It's a toss-up. If I had to pick who I think is going to win, if it came down to them in the conference game, would be a coin flip. I don't know that I'm ready to make a decision on that yet.
I'll kind of, me, I'm that closet Lions fan, but I respect what the Eagles are doing.
It's not closet no more at this point.
It's well known. Bills, Lions are my second and third teams if the Falcons are out. But I agree with, on paper, the Eagles are I think on paper the Eagles have the best talent out of the two. But man, if you just look at the offense, I get it. Saquon Barkley, Doc, is the leading rusher, but this isn't a 1-2. This is not a 1-2 punch in Detroit. It's a 1-1 punch. It's Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. It is the two best running backs together under one. They overall is a better rushing attack than just Saquon by himself. And then you have Amon-Ra St. Brown. I trust Jared Goff more than Jalen Hurts, honestly. Sam Laporta's getting used more in the red zone, thank God. Jamison Williams takes the top off the defense. And Tim Patrick, I like Tim Patrick. I liked him in Denver. Sucks that he had injuries there. And the defense is playing good with the injuries they have. Now, I get it. I'll give the defense to the Eagles, but I trust Dan Campbell more than I trust Nick Sirianni. I trust Ben Johnson more than I trust Kellen Moore, but I do give Fangio the edge on defense. I just think the Lions on the field, they are a more well ground and pound team that will run you out of the building, wear you down, and that will force them to make more mistakes if they play each other. But Eagles still a great team, 10-2, big winning streak right now too.
Both of them can do both sides of the ball. Jamison Williams, first of all, is he going to play, or are we going to see another suspension? Amon-Ra St. Brown, phenomenal receiver, stacks right up there with A.J. Brown. The offensive side is good on both sides. The Lions have that 1-2 punch, but the Eagles don't need it with Saquon Barkley. This is definitely – and if I had to give the upper hand, I think the quarterback game right now goes to Goff. You take the tush push out of the game, and the Eagles are a vastly different team. You know what I'm saying? They are not nearly as successful, in my opinion. But I think if I had to look at the two teams side by side, if I'm seeing the offense is evenly matched as I think it is, the defense to me really stands with the Eagles, and that's where I think the big difference maker is going to be. In these two teams, and we've seen it before. Defense is going to win games. And I think that this Eagles defense can hold the Lions at bay enough to, get to the promised land.
Man, that would be a fun matchup too. And both teams in the running for that 1 seed. So I think that the Lions need the home team to be the home team more than the Eagles do because of the ruck. I think the atmosphere is going to be crazy in Detroit. When I'm saying the atmosphere, it's just for some reason an atmosphere in Philly is something different. It's just, especially being cold weather game possibly too. The whole Goff narrative of he struggles outdoors is always, that's what the narrative's always been with him, even back in LA and St. Louis. He played the 1 year there. I don't know, man. This would be a fun matchup. The question is which coach would obviously make the coaching mistake, because Doc, you've given Dan Campbell shit. Nick Sirianni gets shit for the play calls and the situations he gets. Which coach would be the which one would beat themselves too in that situation of that game too. That'd be very interesting to see between Campbell and Sirianni.
To me, who's going to beat themselves is going to be Dan Campbell. Risking everything on a play that he got no business risking when there's time on the clock or plenty of game to go. And it's going to be that one play that comes down to, if you hadn't done this, which could be any game really. But for me, Sirianni isn't so much beating himself as much as Sirianni is the maturity and the control of his own guys, right? We know Jason Kelsey came out and essentially said, Jalen Hurts is the reason I had to call it. I couldn't stand babysitting anymore, trying to control this locker room and the way that everything was going. I don't think Sirianni, it's so much he's going to beat himself. I think his team is going to beat him. His own team is going to beat him. But this is a different Eagles team than we've seen. They're a lot more composed. So I'll give them that. And if they continue that and they don't.
And I think that's the Barkley effect. I think Barkley kind of calms that offense down big time with the
100%. Yeah. 100%. And I think that if this team can maintain its composure and not lose themselves in the playoffs and get complacent, when it comes down to coaching, I don't think Sirianni is a great coach by any means. But I think that if it came down to the two coaches, who's going to beat themselves? Dan Campbell's the only one that rolls the dice that way. I don't think Sirianni does. Doing a tush push on 3rd and short or 4th and short when it's proven to work is not as risky as going for a 2-point conversion to win a game instead of kicking the extra point and trusting your team to do what they've been doing all game against the Cowboys and taking it to overtime.
Sirianni does have that effect that he does go for a lot of 4th downs, and he does for some reason go for 2-point conversions early on in the game. I don't get why he does that. Like, he'll come out and go for 2, the first score, sometimes even the second score. I don't get the logic why he does it sometimes, but not all the time. But yeah, Campbell has got the narrative of doing it more than Sirianni, but Sirianni is still, he does it at times, and it's just weird. His is weird because it's not consistent. Dan Campbell is consistent. He'll do it. He's going to do it regardless. He does it 100% of the time, unless it's obviously the analytics they punt it. But Doc, we're talking best teams too. Let's move to the AFC. The Buffalo Bills. I get it. They don't have the best record in the AFC. That goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. Are the Buffalo Bills the team to beat on the AFC side of the NFL?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of surprising. Josh Allen is, really calmed down with the turnovers and controlling the game. He's playing much better Josh Allen MVP type football. James Cook has been a pleasant surprise. And honestly, when you look at this team pre-Amari Cooper, and Amari Cooper hasn't even balled out like you would expect him to do and be, elevate this offense as a premier receiver, which I think he is. But I think what this team has done with some of the holes in defense and the lack of offensive weapons outside of Josh Allen. You're seeing Josh Allen do Patrick Mahomes type things of making these, mediocre receivers look like stars. Yeah. So if I had to put it down, it's tough. I want to say that the Bills are the team to beat, but the Chiefs got the pinstripes on their side.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that in a second. But the Bills, Doc, too, also congrats for them. They got Matt Milano back. First game back against the Niners, obviously. Didn't look as amazing yet. Obviously, his first game of the year. But, man, like you said, Josh Allen elevating guys like he is Patrick Mahomes. I think, obviously, 2020 was special, and he had a special 2021 season with Brian Daboll and Stephon Diggs as his receiver. But the fact what he's doing now with the less tier of talent – yeah, he's got Dalton Cage's out for a couple games. Cooper just coming in. Shakir, James Cook, Dawson Knox hasn't really been impactful at all. I believe he should be considered for the MVP. I think this is his most valuable performance of a season because of what he's doing with the less talent. The expectations, Doc, wasn't there. Now, they just did win their 5th straight AFC title. Congrats to the Buffalo Bills. They won the AFC East December 1st. So they were already wrapped up a home game, which is crazy, but they beat the Chiefs, and they've proven they can beat the Chiefs, and they've proven that they can compete with the Chiefs. The question is, can they do it in the playoffs? Like you said, the Chiefs still being the Chiefs. A lot of people like to say they have the refs on their side and all that stuff. That's a story for another time. But can they beat the Chiefs in the playoffs?
That's definitely a story for now, since we're on the topic. All right, because I don't know how you pick up a flag for false start and change it to illegal motion. Because the Chiefs recovered a fumble. Okay.
Yeah, I missed that play, to be honest.
But That's where it's tough though, because the Chiefs. It's so backwards. The Chiefs win in the regular season, but losing the playoffs every year.
Yeah,
and that's
well,
the thing is coming into this season, are they going to finally turn the page and are they going to come out and beat Kansas City in the playoffs? I think they can. I think they can every year. They could.
The thing too with the Bills and the Chiefs, Doc, besides the 2020 AFC Championship, Josh Allen has outperformed Patrick Mahomes in the playoff games. He outperformed him in the 2021 playoffs when it was a 13 seconds, where literally they went toe for toe. They went head for head that game, and he gave them the lead with 13 seconds left, and his defense gave up the game. And last year in the playoffs, Josh Allen outperformed Patrick Mahomes. There's 2 drops, one by, I think it was Shakir, and one by Stephon Diggs, who's no longer on the team. Josh Allen put the game on his back last year, and yes, Mahomes won. Mahomes it's hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes, hard to bet against Andy Reid and the Chiefs, but Josh Allen, year in and year out, outperforms almost everybody in the playoffs. It's just something always happens to the Bills where you're like, damn, man, how did this team lose it? And Doc, this defense, me and you have said it, this defense is doing what the defense has always done when they lost guys last year. This defense is a top 10 defense. They bend but don't break. They will give you the yards in between the 20. But in the red zone, they settle for field goals more than touchdowns. That is how you win games. You give up less points than the other team, and Josh Allen is capable enough to score. And, to old Josh Allen last week, if that was Josh Allen last year, he would have tried throwing that ball 40 times in the snow. That would have been the Josh Allen way.
100%. 6 of them would have been picks.
Yeah, and,
now,
Joe
obviously
Brady,
it's not going to be.
Too. Joe Brady's key too, by the way.
Yeah, he's one of my guys on my list for the Bears, which we'll talk about later. But the other thing you got to look at, as far as how Josh Allen's going to handle this game in the snow is he was playing me in fantasy. He's not gonna make mistakes. He's gonna come out and play his most elite style of football because Doc's going for the playoffs, and we can't let that happen.
Yeah, outside that, Doc, that was a crazy. Like, that was a crazy heads up. Like, we've seen Travis Kelce do that on purpose, like where they plan it. But the fact for Cooper to kind of going backwards, almost stood up completely where the play was about to be blown dead. It was close to being blown dead. And the fact that Josh Allen wasn't even coming to get the ball, it looked like he was coming to push Mark Cooper forward, like to give him more yards. And Cooper just shoves it back to him. And then full Superman dive in the end zone. That was a special play. That was probably one of the best heads up plays I've seen this year, honestly.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was definitely close to getting blown dead, and he said, "Shit, Josh, you're playing Doc in fantasy this week. You need this. You need this shit. So take it."
I do think that'd be a cool photo if the NFL did it right too, like in the snow, diving Superman. Like, that was just a great play. And I don't know, Doc. I think we're gonna talk Steelers. I think the 3 teams right now. You give the Ravens maybe 4, but Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Buffalo, those are my 3 teams right now that I do not want to play in the AFC. If the AFC teams match up, you don't want to see those 3 teams. And I think Buffalo's leading the way. I would not want to play Buffalo. And Kansas City plays 4 playoff teams remaining too, out of their 5 remaining games. So Buffalo might get the 1 seed.
God, I would love to see nothing more than Kansas City lose the last 5 games.
They'll probably beat the Browns. Let's just be honest there. But they play the Chargers, Broncos, Steelers, and Texans. So those are 3 Texans. I don't know what Texans are yet, but the other 3, Buffalo or Denver, LA, and Pittsburgh, those are tough games, man. And they could lose any of those 3. And Buffalo could get the 1 seed. And I don't think Kansas City wants to go to Buffalo this year. They did last year and they won, but I don't think they want to do that again this year, Doc.
No, I don't think it'll be the same for them this year.
You mentioned the Bears, Doc. Let's talk the state of the Chicago Bears. Let's just do a quick recap. Last year, or the coming this season, the question was, should you have Matt Eberflus as your head coach? And me and Alan, I'm pretty sure a couple of people said, get him out of here. You were kind of on board, giving him another chance. You kind of weren't like 100% like set in stone, like, okay, he has to be there. But you were like, okay, let's give him a chance. He kind of came back with Fields. Hey, fast forward, you were 4-2 at one point. Now you're 4-8. Caleb Williams is not throwing an interception in the 6-game losing streak, by the way. That's the first time in history on a 6-game losing streak the Bears have not thrown a single interception. You fired your head coach after the timeout debacle. Who's to blame for that? We're going to talk about that. I still blame the head coach more than anything. Yes, Caleb needs more situational awareness to call timeout, but that's more on the head coach, in my opinion, than anything. You fired him the day after you gave a press conference too. Congrats for the ownership for allowing him to go talk and say, I'm going to be the coach for the remainder of the year. The question is,
that was like a perfect icing on the cake.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I was like, damn, that's pretty fucked up, man. But
no,
what should the Chicago
Bears
happy. Do, though? What should the Bears do going forward for 2025 and beyond?
So first thing is, I also want to give out a fun fact because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Caleb Williams has the rookie record for snaps without an interception.
Yeah, I think he does. He also has the Bears rookie record for touchdown passes, which is only 14. I was like, okay, that's a little that was a little glazing, but the one you said that's a good stat. I give him that.
That's actually pretty impressive, but
yep, I'll give him that.
No, I mean, the way the offense is clicked, the way the defense is clicked, if a 6-game losing streak doesn't tell you here what the issue is. I mean, when you look at the losing streak, right, you take out the Patriots, which was an offensive nightmare, courtesy of Shane Waldron. You take out the Cardinals for the same reason. The defense did not play well against the Cardinals either. But you look at Washington, the Hail Mary at the end of the game. And Eberflus, although he may not be calling the plays, but he is the defensive-minded head coach. That's got to be a position where you as a head coach is like, hey, we got to make sure we cover the backside. I mean, how you don't have somebody in the back, right? Also, not keeping your players in check like Tyreek Stevenson, who is getting a penalty on the second to last play in order to put Washington in a position to be able to make that throw, right? You look at the Packers who, aside from the blown penalties, it's almost like the narrative for the Chiefs. It's like the complete opposite for the Bears. Like the narrative is, or like the script is to keep the Bears down. But you look at the play calls in the Packers game. We should not have been in that. Like, we should have been well out in front of that game. You look at the Vikings and the botch job that we had against Minnesota. And then, of course, you look at the timeout debacle. And I'm going to say this right now, and I'm 100% on board with Caleb on this. Like, yes, you as a rookie quarterback could have situational awareness to call the timeout. But at the end of the day, what Caleb said is 100% accurate. If I'm a little later on in my career, I get to make that call, right? But he's like, right now, I'm a rookie. I was given a game plan by the coach. I was told to follow and execute it, and that's what he did. You don't come out as a brand new quarterback and challenge the coach like that live, and it comes out later on. Eberflus, because then if you lose that game, Eberflus is going to come out. Well, we had that timeout. We were going to say for running a play and then call for a field goal, but we called the timeout early, ran a play, and then, not early, but earlier than they could have. And then that play got us in bounds, couldn't get the field goal team out in time. The play should have been called, and here's where the coaching problem is, because the timeout should have been called as soon as the sack happened. Because, first of all, you start to see that you guys are not getting the line as fast as they can, and that's where they fucked up the first time, because the Detroit Lions were swimming through midfield, celebrating the sack, where you could have rushed the line, gotten a playoff, and drawn an offsides. On top of that, as a head coach, you've got to look at situation. You want to talk about situational awareness. My quarterback just got sacked, took us out of field goal range. Let's fucking call timeout and regroup. Let's get the team back on track, get the mentality right, and regroup for this short play. You can run a slant out, flat, whatever, and hopefully get out of bounds. But you just took a sack. You know how deflating that is when you take a sack? The rest of the team is like, oh, fuck. And now they're all lollygagging back to the line. That ain't on Caleb. Caleb could have called that timeout. It doesn't make any changes. And then people want to talk about, Caleb changed the play. What are you doing in that situation when you got 12 seconds left and your coach told you this timeout is being held, okay? And your guys taking the time getting back to the line. You're at a point now where you know that even if you make a play, okay, with 12 seconds, you make a short play, but what happens if that receiver breaks free? Is that receiver taking the dive, or is he going for the end zone? Because you got a chance to win, not tie. Now you've taken more time off, and now you've cost the game anyways. So Williams, in my opinion, went to the line looking at it going, this is our only shot. And he did what he had to do to try to maximize.
Well, the other thing, too, was it took 20 seconds to call the original play, which was disgusting. You had
another problem.
20 seconds. Now, I get it. That's an interim offense coordinator, now interim head coach. How much does he get? I mean, I get it. He's brand new to the coaching gig there for that situation. Caleb, I guess, called an audible. My also thing is, okay, so you didn't call the timeout, but the final play, you didn't even throw it into the end zone. You threw the ball fucking 7 yards short. I'm not blaming Caleb on that.
No, but he's still. I mean,
you
if
threw
the
it
throw was
7
on,
yards short. It's like, come on, even if he gets tackled, the time is 0 now. Even if you catch the ball, the game is over because you can't call timeout when the game's over. So the whole situation just seemed like it just stemmed over to like you guys got guys yelling at the coach in the locker room. The coach lost the locker room weeks ago. I mean, it's been documented. It's been well known.
he lost it. He lost it at the very latest, the Washington game.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, and the fact that he doubled down too after the game on Thursday, he said, and to be honest, I shit on everybody besides DJ Moore because DJ Moore was the only one that called out the situation. I get it. Caleb's going to back his coach.
No, Keenan did. Keenan did.
Keenan said we did enough to win the game. DJ Moore flat out said we handled it incorrectly. Like he straight up said like
Keenan, but Keenan, see, you didn't catch the underline. Keenan said we did enough as players to win the game. Okay. That's what the Jazz said. He said as players. That lets you. He came out and said that the players did enough. It was the coaching.
By the way, Keenan Allen said that he said he's only going to be in Chicago or LA next year too. So hopefully he comes back because he's playing better as of with the new offensive coordinator. He's been playing a lot better.
He's getting involved more, and I think that's what the problem was. I still have my concern with the hands. I mean, depending on what the price is next year, and unfortunately receivers are going for a lot of money, but depending on what the price is and what our cap is, I may not be opposed to bringing him back. Because honestly, and you bring him back in a short deal, and that's what I think is going to be the big thing is I don't know how much money LA has tied up. I don't think it's a ton because they're a very young team, aside from Herbert, obviously, but it's going to come down to, what length is he demanding and what AAV is he demanding?
Yeah.
But in my opinion, and I got to go back and look at the play again, because if the ball is out in front of Rome, where he makes that catch, in stride, a step or two, making a dive. I mean, he's in the end zone. If he makes that catch, I don't think he's not hitting the end zone.
I think the defender was right on top of him. So I think it was just one of those situations where it just wasn't gonna happen. It seemed like where the final play was gonna result in a touchdown. I think Caleb got pressure too. I don't think he had a chance to really step in the throw like he wanted to. Like, I'm not blaming the throw on I'm not blaming the game on Caleb because of the throw. I'm just saying on top of that, you didn't even throw it to the end zone where you gave your team a chance to win the game. It's just all that stuff. But it all stems back to the coach. If Matt calls the timeout, you only need a field goal. So even if you get the first down, you spike it real quick, you have a chance to play. You have a chance to
you ain't getting the first down. It's like 3rd and 26.
No, wasn't it third down and wasn't it like third down and 8 or third down and here I have it right here. I'm actually
no, it's 3rd and 26.
Now. So they got they got the 4th down, which was and boss, those refs were a little ticky tacky in my opinion. That final drive in general,
there was no 4th down. There was no 4th down. It's 3rd and 26. That was the last play of the game.
But before that, they got the 4th down on the PI.
PI,
which I thought was so. The Cole Kmet PI I thought was I didn't think it was that big of a PI on Cole Kmet, but he kind of tried selling it, and he hurt himself because he flopped, and the flop looked like he wasn't trying to make a route, even though I didn't think it was that bad.
His problem was when he went into the route, he anticipated contact and he stopped. He hit the e-brakes, anticipated contact, put up a block, and that's what did it. If he ran and let it look natural, he had a chance. But they even said it on the review when the commentators were reviewing it. They said that him squaring up is ultimately what sold it to be a PI. But either way, 3rd and 26, you were like 4 or 5 yards out of field goal range. You call that timeout. You got 35 seconds, right? If it takes you a second to call it, 35 seconds, and the field goal. Use that timeout. Field goal team is getting ready on the sideline. You're drawing up your play to get 5 yards. You get your 5, and then immediately the field goal team's rushing on. There was plenty of time.
So I I just watched the final play, Doc. So actually, it would have been close if Rome would have caught it. Caleb actually threw a perfect spot. He threw it right at like the 2-yard line. Roma Duze actually looked like he was trying to sell a PI. He put his arms up like this before the ball even got near him, and then he tried running. He stopped his route, tried calling a PI, and then ran again, but the guy never yanked him to do it. So it looked like Rome just lost track of the ball and then tried selling a PI. Caleb put the ball actually in a good, decent spot where if he keeps running, it's a close play. It's close. It honestly,
I'll be honest, man. For a guy that was not a big fan of Caleb Williams by any means coming into this season, I mean, he is changing my mind. This guy has been impressive. I mean, he's almost 900 yards passing in the last 3 games. I forget what he needs for the rest of the season to become the first Bears quarterback to throw 4,000 yards. But he needs to average 280 a game in order to do it. And I think he's right now, his last 3 games, averaging like 265, 270.
Caleb's at 2,612 yards on the season.
Yeah, the 14-something by the rest of the games, it comes out to 280 a game is what he's got to make to hit 4,000 yards.
So what should the Bears do, though? Should they go get I've seen rumors now of, obviously, I've been saying Ben Johnson for any young quarterback, go get Ben Johnson. I think that's the best option. Joe Brady's an option. Cliff Kingsbury's popped up. Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame's popped up. You've mentioned some defensive coaches. Who should be on top of the Chicago Bears wish list for coaching?
I am looking at Ben Johnson, Joe Brady, and I forget what the other name was I told you.
Aaron Glenn you mentioned from the Lions, but
no, he's the DC. There's another offensive coordinator I mentioned. Let me look it up.
Think deep into that conversation because we were texting in the chat. I don't even know when that was, but I would say stay away from defense coaches. I think just stay away.
No, we need an offensive mind for Caleb Williams
because these good young offensive mind coaches, they can get you a good DC and keep the defense afloat. Ben Johnson helped turn Jared Goff back around. Joe Brady's helped bring back Josh Allen to earth. Like these guys now, can they run a team? That's yet to be seen. Obviously, can they run a team overall? Okay, I get it. That's a question mark, but the offense will be an offense that will be and it will be good. I think your pieces are there, Doc. You have Caleb Williams, who's young. People love him. You have DJ Moore, Cole Kmet. I think will be utilized with Cole Kmet would be utilized with Ben Johnson. We've seen tight ends used with the Detroit Lions the last couple of years. I say stay away from Kingsbury.
Liam Cohen. That was the other one.
Oh, yeah, okay. Bucks OC.
Cliff Kingsbury, the only reason I might say it's a good fit is because of his time with him at USC.
He did the 1 year with him, yeah.
There is that connection.
I've just seen Kingsbury as head coach, and I wasn't a fan.
Right now. No, I agree. The important thing right now, though, is and listen, I wasn't a big fan of Cliff Kingsbury either, but honestly, at that time, a lot of the problems stemmed around Kyler Murray. I don't think it was as much. I mean, I look back now and talked about how bad of a coach he was, but I know I had comments about Murray, but Kyler Murray definitely was not an impressive quarterback at that time by any means. Coming back from his injury last year, and then this year he's played tremendously better. Not elite by any means, but tremendously better than the prima donna Murray that we saw at the start of his career. The most important thing right now is not going to be the who; it's going to be the how. So, who is coming in with a scheme that either has something that fits Caleb Williams and what this offense can do, or can create something to what this offense can do? Because you've got to look at the players coming in. You've got an air attack with Liam Cohen, in my opinion. Bucky Irving has been stepping up, but Rashad White has been an extreme disappointment. So it lets me know there's not a lot there. You've got to have a quarterback that's got a quick pull on the trigger for a quarterback, because the offensive line won't stand up to it, right? So you're talking screens, you're talking quick plays, you're talking flats. There's a lot to consider. But I think the most important thing is finding a guy that you're going to go, hey, is this guy able to elevate Caleb, right? So when we had Khalil Mack went to a 3-4, the defense, after we got rid of Mack, the defense was shaky at best. I mean, the defense for the first time that I can remember as a Bears fan was not good in Chicago. And then Eberflus came in. They went back to the Tampa 2 that was successful for so many years prior to the Khalil Mack. And obviously, you change the defense because you've got a guy that can do that, right?
Yeah.
But they went back to the Tampa 2 that has now become successful again the last 2 years. So you built a scheme around what works for this defense. So now it's going to be about bringing in a guy that can build an offensive scheme around the play style of Caleb Williams and the rest of this offense that can throw in the throw in the play action, throw in the run game. The scrambling is great. All right. Caleb can do it when he's needed, but that's not what we want our go-to to be. We don't have a Lamar Jackson who is a run-first quarterback. All right. So we need a guy that can build a pocket and execute the pass in the time that we've got in the pocket. And I'll tell you, since Shane Waldron has been gone, the time to throw has been down tremendously for Caleb. And that's a big reason to look at the success of this offense and why Caleb Williams is finding so much success right now. He's not holding on to the ball as long. He's not having the pocket collapse on him. He's not taking 9 sacks in a game.
Yeah, he's been pretty hit for the most part of the year. O-line is obviously going to be an issue to address too in the offseason. And we'll see. There's obviously you guys have a first rounder. You have 2 second rounders with the Panthers. That's the last part of that trade with the Bryce Young. Shout out to Bryce Young too, playing a lot better since he came back as a starting quarterback. Like what I'm seeing there. Obviously hate seeing him there too because they're. But Doc, yeah, the state of the Bears, man. This is going to be a big topic for us in the offseason. I can't wait to get into the draft season with the Bears. What do you guys do? Obviously, where you guys are drafting is very important too. Do you go off?
I'm at the point now, lose out.
Yeah, because you guys' question marks I've seen for some reason is defensive line and obviously offensive line is the other issue. So
I got to look at who we're losing this year, because for me, I'm looking O-line with the first pick because you find better O-line early on. There are defensive, especially after the draft we watched last year. There's O-line, there's D-line available early second round.
And this O-line class isn't the deepest neither. It's like you have like 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 at the most big names in the offensive line. You have Banks and Campbell from LSU and Texas, and then you have a couple guys outside that maybe in the first round might sneak in. But those are the 2 big names in college.
And we need a bona fide stud, and that's why I think we take. I mean, depending on where first round pick is at, I might even say trade that down to get 2 picks next year so we can really bolster.
Okay.
But I'm thinking if we hold what we got, depending on where we're picking, offensive line, defensive line, either with an edge. I would say edge first because we need an elite edge opposite of Sweat. And then maybe an interior. Yeah, maybe an interior defensive lineman with that second round pick. Otherwise, we go offensive tackle, defensive edge, or edge rusher, and then I think we go another offensive lineman. I think we need a center. Center's a huge issue we got to address.
Center you see around around that third. Well, we saw a couple centers last year go early, but usually around like this late second.
Well, what Joe Alt was a center, wasn't he?
No, he's tackle. But Ben Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon, who's now with the Raiders, he played guard and center, and then Frazier from the Steelers, he played both, but I think he's playing. Steelers were banged up. But hey, speaking of Steelers, actually, Doc, before we go to college, are the Pittsburgh Steelers like we talked about this a few weeks ago? Me and Chris were saying, hey, shout out to me and Chris. Now we look right; they're going to win the division. They're winning the division.
I'm still shocked.
This team, man, like honestly, let's think about it. Can this team be contenders for the Super Bowl? Like make the Super Bowl from the AFC?
I don't know. I mean, the consistency of the offense has been my issue all year. Also, they haven't played much.
I feel like with Russ, though, man, they've been I get it. They had a bad game against the Browns, a snow game, but I feel like this offense has been consistent with Russ in.
It's been a lot better. We're going to see what they do this week against the Browns in a rematch. I think that they can definitely make a move for the play. I don't think they're a contender for the Super Bowl. I don't think they're beating the Bills or the Chiefs.
I think they're going to beat the Chiefs the biggest day, though. I'm telling you right now, I've been saying it for a couple weeks. They're beating the Chiefs on Christmas, but can they do it in the playoffs? Okay, that's one thing. But I I don't know, man. This team, man, like Pickens I've been saying give Pickens a quarterback, and hey, congrats to Russ, man. No, Russ is playing good football, man. Like, I think Russ has earned his way to be the starter. Don't go crazy and pay him big money, but I think he could be a starter for a couple of years with Mike Tomlin. Give him like a 2 or 3 year contract, and then find your quarterback of the future down the line.
Yeah, you can't break the bank though on this guy because he's not proven enough in this short time to give him a Geno Smith type deal. Honestly, I still need to see the consistency. Yeah.
They gave up points, but they also had 2 defensive touchdowns. So
no, the defense is. But listen, when you're talking about giving up points, you expect to do that against a team like the Bengals. All right. All the Bengals have is offense.
Yeah.
That's it. But you held the Ravens to 16. The Commanders, I think holding the Commander, beating the Commanders was a big deal for them. Held the Jets to 15. That ain't saying much. Raiders ain't saying much.
Held the Falcons to 10 points week 1. I get it was week 1, but still, you held the offense to 10 points. Like, that's pretty good.
Yeah. No, there was a lot of question marks early on beating weaker teams or, pre-Bo Nix, right? But I think, it's this team is starting to come into their own. They definitely are on the right path to be contenders. I don't want to say that like they don't have that potential, but I don't see them getting past the Bills and the Chiefs in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Hey, shout out to Mike Tomlin too, Doc. Another season, another not losing season. He's got a winning record this year. So congrats to the Steelers, man. They have not had a losing record since the year before Ben Roethlisberger. 2003 was the last year they had a losing season, longest streak in the NFL. So congrats to the Steelers.
That's impressive. It really is.
That was with Bill Cowher at the end of his time, and then obviously now Mike Tomlin for many, many years. Doc, before we go to college too, do we have an issue with these quarterbacks? Like, I get it. The hit on Trevor Lawrence obviously was very nasty. I felt like, yes, it was a late hit where he could have avoided it. Obviously, you're already falling, but he threw the forearm to his helmet. But Trevor did slide pretty late. Do we have an issue with these quarterbacks sliding late and like the Mahomes style, look like he's going out of bounds and then cuts up down the sideline? So is there a situation where the NFL has to address the quarterbacks, or is it more on the defensive players hitting these guys?
No, the quarterbacks just need to make better decisions. If you want to body up, you're going to take the lick. You know what I'm saying? And that play with Patrick Mahomes, I saw the same thing with Caleb Williams this week against the Lions. He got folded like a lawn chair and trying to cut back inside when he should have gone out of bounds and got nothing extra for it. Very fortunate he came out unscathed.
I didn't like Caleb's response to that, by the way. He said that I didn't like my knee being targeted. I felt like that was more on because his knee didn't get hit. His waist got hit. He was falling down already.
He just got buckled. Yeah. I think, as far as the Lawrence hit goes, I'm a big proponent. Like, I got to look at the play again to see the forearm. I didn't watch it very closely. I didn't review it a bunch, but my big takeaway from it was the guy was already in the motion of tackling. At a initial glance, it was not a dirty hit. He's going forward for a tackle. Again, I got to review it because I got to look at the forearm that you're talking about. If that's the case, you've got to try and turn what you can. But at the same time, we've talked about this with roughing the passers, and they've really eased off of the roughing the passer in the last couple of years. They are not calling them like they used to. You could literally be on top of the guy with the football, and when the football falls out of his hand after he's tackled, they're calling roughing the passer on you. The body weight on it, everything else. Look, you don't want to take the hit, give yourself up early. Now, what do you want me to, what am I supposed to say here? Oh, we should just allow the quarterback to take a couple extra yards and throw a flag, and the defense has to be wary about it? No, because what if that quarterback fakes a slide and then comes back up and now you just gave up on a tackle? No, if you're in the fucking motion, you're in the motion. Tough shit on Lawrence. Have fun watching the next game on a sideline, idiot.
So another thing too is I don't know if you watched Hard Knocks this past season with the Bears coming with Caleb's rookie year. They taught Caleb how to slide. Like, they're teaching all the quarterbacks. When you slide, you keep your leg up. So if you are going to get hit, they're going to kind of avoid it because they don't want to land on your leg. They're going to go over you. Trevor didn't even do that. Trevor just went straight down. Like, he's not even defending himself. So I didn't like that. Like, first you slide late, and then second, you don't defend yourself at all. you're just going to take the hit. I believe what Rex Ryan said. Start diving. Stop sliding. Dive head first and just dive to the ground. Stop fucking going with your face. Your whole upper body is ready to be a striking zone essentially for these guys that are already tackling, like you said. And I don't know. And Patrick Mahomes too. I get it. Like he goes up the sideline and fakes it. You're also screwing the defense now too. So I believe the defense is at a liability here, and a lot of times. But you also can't throw a forearm neither. That's the only thing. That's the only thing I didn't like was he threw a forearm.
No, yeah, and that's why I got to look at that again. Because like I said, I didn't watch it over and over. I just took it at a quick glance because they cut to it on red zone, and I was like, looks legit to me. But no, Jaden Daniels, is another perfect example of that. I mean, how many times this guy diving and trying to body up on the play instead of taking the slide? If you want, and then he got that rib injury a couple weeks before the Bears, or the week before the Bears. If you want to fucking body up, dude, you got to be prepared to take it.
Yeah.
If you want to come in late sliding, trying to draw a flag, you better be able to take the hit whether or not you get it.
Yeah, so if you're going to slide, you better slide 2 or 3 yards earlier because, those extra yards matter to the defense. Like that's how, if you're getting first downs because that, like the defense now have another set of series of downs and you can't slide late. That's the thing is you're putting the defense at a very unfortunate situation there.
I get why they're sliding late, though. They're sliding late because of the way they call the slide. They got to give up the shit about – I don't like that they call the play where the slide starts. All right? If you dive 3 feet in the air on a slide, like football has always been where the body goes down. I don't give a shit if you started your slide. That ain't where he's down. If we're going to do that, why are we not doing the same thing for diving forward? What's the difference?
I think they tried that.
I give yourself up doing it the other way too.
I think they tried that, and I think that's why they just went to sliding because I think the diving was the same thing. But I feel like the diving is it's safer for the quarterback. That's why I'm saying just dive.
Is it though? Because if you come in head to head, you still got the same thing.
Well, if you tuck,
you're actually risking.
You're risking your shoulder
paralysis, but you're risking paralysis versus a concussion.
Then stop babying the quarterbacks. How about that? I'm sorry that they're the guys that people want to see, but if you want to play a big boy game,
that's a big one for many years now.
Yeah.
Well, the reason everybody's crying about it now is because they're paying quarterbacks now way too much goddamn money. When you're paying a quarterback $50 million a year, you want him protected because if he goes down, you can't afford another option.
That's true.
But stop paying your quarterbacks $50 million a year.
Yeah, well, paying quarterbacks aren't good $50 million a year too. That's a thing.
In general, stop putting all your eggs in one basket. Imagine paying somebody in MLB. Imagine the Yankees paying somebody $100 million a year, and now you're trying to figure out how to field the rest of a team.
It's kind of what we do already. Unfortunately, we got to start doing what the Dodgers do and start deferring money to the end of the contract. They're starting to do that. It looks like with Blake Snell. I saw they're potentially going to defer his contract, $66 million worth. So congrats to the Dodgers for doing those kind of things. But Doc, let's jump into college. Hey, what a rival weekend, man. We had, I think it was like 22 teams were fighting each other over the weekend. Congrats to rival weekend being back. The rankings did come out, Doc, and you can see it on the bottom of the screen. 1 through 12, Oregon, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Ohio State. We'll talk about that. Tennessee, SMU, Indiana, Boise State, Alabama, Miami number 12. But they are the first team out because the Big 12 needs a team, which is Arizona State. Well, the winner of Arizona State, Iowa State will be that 12th team. And that means, Doc, that Miami is not going to make the play. They will not make the playoffs. And that's the question is, should it be Miami or should it be Alabama? Or should it be Ole Miss or even South Carolina? Who should be the 12th team? But it came down to Alabama and Miami this year.
I mean, it's a toss-up. I mean, my problem with Miami is the close games they had with much less competitive teams. They got bailed out 2 weeks in a row by referees. They were kind of on that cusp, and I said it, and obviously they were undefeated at the time, and it's rare to go undefeated, but I said it from the start. This is a team that is kind of on that edge of barely scraping by. It's gonna run out. It's gonna run out, and it has. They've lost 2 since that string of games. This is a Miami team that was very impressive to open the season, and has since become just a disappointment. Close game or not, losing to Georgia Tech, losing to Syracuse, not teams that you would expect to lose to as a Miami team. In my opinion, especially coming off this last loss, I don't think Miami deserves to be in the playoff. I don't think they do.
Are you good with Alabama?
I would
Ole Miss,
take
South Carolina. Because remember, Alabama and Ole Miss.
I got to look a little.
South Carolina, but South Carolina is the hotter team of the two. So it's one of the. This thing with college is what's the criteria? Is it what you've done lately? Is it totality of the year, head to head, strength of schedule, strength of record?
It's a little bit of everything, I think. It's a little bit of everything, I think, which is why Indiana, the head to head and the strength of schedule is why I think Indiana stayed below Ohio State. But I think the what have you done for me lately is definitely one thing that's holding Miami. I mean, they lost 2 out of 3. The fact Miami's even in the top 10. Losing to 2 unranked teams is impressive in itself. I'm sorry, in the top 12.
They're 12
Having
right now.
lost 2 in the last 3 to unranked teams is impressive in itself. If I got to look at it, Alabama's in a tougher conference. Alabama played a tougher schedule. Miami had a lot more close games against less worthy opponents. Miami's not ready.
And that's another year, too. Second in a row, Doc, where it seems like Alabama's kicking out an ACC team. Obviously, last year was your situation. It was a 4-man team, but now on a 12-man team, that makes it they're kicking out the ACC. The 4th SEC team's kicking the 3rd. Well, 2nd at the moment, but they will be it could be 3rd. But kicking out the ACC team in general, because now the ACC only has the SMU at the moment. Doc, and speaking of SMU, let's just do a hypothetical. SMU, let's say they lose to Clemson very close. Let's say like 3 points, 6 points, something like that. Very back and forth game. Clemson's still, I think, a respectable team, even though they're 9-3, 0-2 against the SEC, by the way. But Clemson would get in as the ACC representative. Should SMU? Now I'm going to ask you, what do you think happens first? And I'm going to ask you, what would you do? So what do you think the committee does if SMU just loses barely to Clemson? Will it go to SMU or will it go to Alabama?
Well, and this is always the tough part, right? Because you've got SMU loses a football game, all right, in conference championship. Obviously, they got to go down if they lose that football game because it's a loss. That's how it works. But at the same time, why are we punishing them against a team that wasn't good enough to make it to a conference championship like Alabama? So are we dropping SMU straight down or are we shifting? Are we sliding, the non-conference championship teams, everybody down 1 or 2? If SMU loses, I might say, okay, Indiana tops them, even though they didn't play in a conference championship because they're 11-1. They're still competitive. They played a shit schedule, so that one's kind of up in the air. Boise State, if they win, obviously they're going to move up. I don't know that I move SMU below Alabama. If I'm making the decision, if SMU loses, I think, what's going to be better for the CFP? More than likely, it's going to be Alabama. But at the end of the day, SMU was good enough to go. So where's their credit for going to a conference championship?
And that's the Mario Cristobal answer where look at the facts. He says it's about record. He's obviously this year it's about record for him because he's got a better record than the SEC teams. And that would be the same argument for SMU. Hey, we're 11-2. We lost to Clemson. Yes, who won the ACC?
He's got a better record than one SEC team.
In
the playoff picture.
Oh yeah, because Ole Miss and South Carolina fell out based on the rankings. But
and he's
I like what you're saying too, Doc. I wouldn't. Now I think the committee would punish SMU because they said today it could possibly happen. Now I think if SMU gets blown out, let's say they get blown out against Clemson. Okay,
that's a different story.
But if you barely lose to Clemson and it's in Charlotte, which by the way. Charlotte, we say Georgia's second team or second location is Atlanta because of the Mercedes-Benz. Clemson lately, their second home is Charlotte. They've been in the ACC championship so many times in the last decade. That is like their backyard, essentially. And how well is SMU going to travel from Texas to Charlotte? How big is their fan base? What we're going to find out this Saturday. It's a home game for Clemson. Let's be honest. It's a home game for Clemson. And if they go in there and they barely lose, okay, I still say SMU is going to be ranked higher than Clemson because I don't think Clemson will get ranked in the top 12. They'll go in the top 12 because of the conference win. Same with Arizona State. I think SMU's got to be over Alabama. I really do. totality of the year, they only lost to BYU, who's ranked in the top like 25, and then Clemson would come in. I think you have to put SMU, of course, money-wise and conference prestige. Of course, Alabama has that, but
this
they're
is where it
11-2,
goes.
and
This is where it goes back to what we saw last year. A team that does everything it's supposed to do and still gets shafted. And unfortunately, college football historically, and I mean, it's different now at the CFP, so we'll see what happens. But like the normal AP polls, historically, if you don't play, you don't get punished. And in conference championship week, that's bullshit. In a normal bye, I get it because your bye is going to come. But in conference championship week, you should not be given a grace and be given a free leg up. I'll tell you what's going to happen is Alabama jumps. If SMU loses, Alabama jumps them if it comes down to SMU or Alabama.
Well, that's what's going to come down to because the stand or it's set in stone right now. The final spot comes down to Alabama. Well, if SMU wins, then it's not an argument. They're both in. If Clemson beats SMU, the argument then comes to SMU or Alabama, and the committee is going to have to choose between an 11-2 second place ACC team and the fifth place 9-3 SEC team, which that's where Alabama is falling right now at the moment. I'm sorry, fourth place 9-3 Alabama. That's the situation they're going to have to pick. Do they respect the SEC more with 9-3 or an 11-2 ACC school who just barely lost to Clemson?
And I got to tell you, I mean, I'd even give it up to 2 scores for SMU, but you got to give them credit for making, because it's like, why would I want to go to the conference championship then? If I'm ranked where I'm at and I've got a shot in the playoffs right now, number 10, let somebody else play for that shit.
Well, that's why Tennessee's happy.
Fall out. And if SMU at 10, all right, and Alabama at 12, and Clemson and Florida State, let's say, are 15 and 20, and they're playing for the conference championship because their losses were outside of conference. SMU only lost in conference. All right, let them fucking duke it out. I'm not going down below 12. I know that. Only one of them coming up. And if I don't play and I don't get punished for not playing, Alabama, see you. You're by default.
That's why teams like Indiana, Tennessee, they're very happy because they don't have to play this weekend. Ohio State now, they don't have to play this weekend, and they're virtually a lock. Like they're not going to miss the playoffs.
Yep.
It's just where they're going to be at in the rankings when it's all said and done, depending on who wins and who loses this weekend. That's yet to be seen. But the committee's in a situation. The committee is wishing for SMU to win because they don't have to make a decision. It's set. It's already set. It's Alabama's in, SMU's in, the Big 12's in. They don't have to pick who goes in. They just have to pick how far Texas or Georgia falls and how far Penn State, Oregon falls when those two play each other. That's all. I'm going to tell you what's going to be.
I'm going to tell you what's going to be really interesting, and that is Oregon or Penn State, whoever loses, where they fall in comparison to Ohio State.
I think if Oregon loses,
because Oregon beat Ohio State.
Well, it's not just Ohio State; it's Notre Dame too. If Oregon loses to Penn State, do you keep Notre Dame ahead of Oregon? Or does Oregon go to that 5 spot in Penn State or in Notre Dame's that goes to 6? Or do you put them right behind Notre Dame? Because Notre Dame's number 4 in the nation right now. Oh, like respectively number 4, but 6 in the playoff.
If I am the selection committee, I'm looking. Let's see what we got here. Let me pull this up.
Because if Oregon loses, they're not going below Ohio State. Penn State might because they lost to Ohio State.
So if Oregon loses, their 1 loss is against number 3 Penn State, right? Yes. Notre Dame lost to the joke that is Northern Illinois. All right.
But the Irish is 4 at the moment in the nation. So can you put?
I know 4th in the nation.
Would you flip Penn State and Oregon? Would you just flip them?
I would flip them.
Or not flip them. Maybe Texas goes to 1 if they beat Georgia,
yeah.
And Penn State goes to 2. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, if Texas wins, they go up. Penn State goes 2. I put Oregon 3 because you didn't lose to a number 20 team in the conference championship. You lost number 3. And I think you still keep them above Notre Dame because Notre Dame, I mean, you got to win against Texas A&M, which, let's be honest, Texas A&M, you don't know who you're going to get. They beat Purdue, who I don't know if you saw. I saw I don't know how official it was, but it was like a total CFB ranking. Purdue is a second worst team in the country.
It's pretty good.
At 111. You got Miami of Ohio. Stanford is a joke.
USC.
Georgia Tech beat Miami, but Georgia Tech is a joke. Florida State's a joke. Virginia's a joke. USC started out with promise, and let's see, USC finished 6-6.
They clobbered Navy and Army.
That's not impressive. I don't care who you are. It's not impressive. You expect Notre Dame to clobber Navy and Army.
I'm good with the Irish being where they're at right now because of everyone else, what they've done. I'm okay with the Irish being number 4. But
I don't think the Irish move down. I don't think the Irish move down. If Oregon wins, the only way I say it moves down, if Oregon wins, Penn State moves below. But if Oregon loses, no, I don't put Oregon below I don't put Oregon below Notre Dame.
Would you put Penn State
below?
Would you put Penn State below Ohio State if Penn State loses? Because they did beat them.
Damn sure don't put either of these teams below Ohio State if they lose. If you're going to tell me, number 2, Ohio State lost to an unranked, disappointing Michigan, where they were 20-point favorites,
3 touchdown favorites.
Okay. You got Penn State loses to the number 1 team in the country, the only undefeated team in the country, at least in the top 25, a team that's worth a damn. Pretty sure the only undefeated team in the country right now.
Only undefeated team in the country.
Why in the world would you think that Penn State would fall below Ohio State? Why would they fall more, 4 spots would put them 1 below Ohio State? But again, this goes back to you're rewarding a team for not being good enough to make the conference championship. All right. In my opinion, every bit of either of these teams on a loss stays above Ohio State, period.
What about if Georgia loses to Texas? Would you push Georgia down below Ohio State? They're 10-3. Ohio State's 10-2. I mean, they were the same record going to conference championship weekend. I think you would have to, just because
I think I could make the argument for Georgia because, first of all, Oregon is number 1 team in the country, the only undefeated team. The other argument is the fact, okay, if Penn State loses, I might move them below Ohio State only because Ohio State beat them.
Yeah, and that's where Ohio State's going to sit there and that's where the committee's going to have to say, okay, head to head, yes, they did beat them. Kind of why Ohio State's ahead of Indiana at the moment. They did beat them when they have a less record, so they're ahead of them. That's the situation. And then I
take back what I said. I take it back. I could see Penn State going below Ohio State. It would literally be to number 7. It would literally be to number 7.
To be honest, I don't even think Ohio State should be. I think Tennessee should be higher than Ohio State. I really do.
I think Ohio State. Listen. You lost to a 7-5 Michigan team that couldn't find offense with Google Maps. Okay. Ohio State should not be number 6. Ohio State, in my opinion, is like at best number 10. Lucky to even be in the top 10.
I think they should be right below. I think they should be where I think SMU should flip. I think they should all move up and they go behind SMU right before Indiana. That's where they should be.
I'll agree with that.
And I think if Georgia, back to that real quick, I think if Georgia loses to Texas, I think they fall below. They fall below
Tennessee.
I don't know if they do because that's the same argument. They beat Tennessee. So
okay, so they fall below Ohio State. And again, Texas, honestly, and that's an argument you can make because again, it goes back to okay, you lost your conference championship, but you made it the conference championship. You lost. We're gonna do some flip flop, but you at least made it the conference championship. You're gonna hold what you got.
I just think at the moment, though, Ohio State should not be higher than Tennessee. Tennessee's losses were Arkansas at night and to Georgia, obviously in the SEC championship. Ohio State, okay, I'll give you Oregon. You lost to Oregon and Eugene. That's a respectable loss. You lost by 1 point. But to go at home, and I get it, rivalry weekend, crazy things happen during rivalry weekend. But like you said, this offense sucks at Michigan, and you lost by – and you should have lost by more, honestly.
Michigan, and Michigan State is a rivalry weekend too, and Michigan dragged their nuts across Michigan State, okay?
Oh, I saw a crazy stat too, Doc, before we sign out. So, the 2021 recruiting class for Ohio State, they've all lost to Michigan. They've never beat Michigan, right?
Oh, damn.
There's currently one player in that class that beat Michigan. Do you know who it is?
On Michigan?
No. So Ohio State had their 2021 recruiting class, right? Everybody on Ohio State has lost to Michigan. They never beat them. However, there is one player in the 2021 Ohio State recruiting class that went to Ohio State for a year has beat Michigan. He's the only one that can say it out of the Ohio State class. Do you know who that is? He's no longer
it had
there.
to have been Justin Fields.
Quinn Ewers.
2021. Oh, well.
Hey,
Quinn Ewers
just
beat him?
saying,
No, I know, but did Quinn Ewers beat him?
This year, he beat Michigan. Starting quarterback for Texas Longhorns. Yeah, it's crazy though how that. No, I saw that. I was like,
no.
Hey,
I'm sorry. I was thinking somebody on Ohio State beat him as Ohio State. I didn't know you had.
So like, he was there for the year, and then that was the year they also got Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord and Quinn Ewers came together as 5-star quarterbacks, and Quinn Ewers left after the year because TJ Stroud was going to start for another year. And
Kyle McCord better than Cam Ward. Kyle McCord better than Cam Ward.
No, I don't think he's better than Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward's legit. I just think that that's fine. I mean, Josh Allen outperforms Patrick Mahomes.
I like Cam Ward. I think as he continues, what year is he right now?
This is last year. He's done.
Oh shit.
He's done.
I don't know if he's NFL ready.
I think it's going to come down. We're going to talk. I can't wait for the draft season because I think only 2 teams are going for quarterback. Maybe 3 at the Titans, but I think definitely Raiders and Giants are going QB bound. So it's going to be between. It's between Shador. It's between Shador and Cam who goes first. That's who it's going to come down to. Because Carson Beck and Jalen Milroe's stock went down. Quinn Ewers' stock went down. Garrett Nussmeier, he goes to the NFL. I don't think his stock has risen anything. I think it's a 2 quarterback race for that top spot, and they kind of go back to back, honestly. But
I don't know. I think Jacksonville, they didn't put so much money into that piece of shit that they have. I also think that Cleveland can go quarterback
and kind of let them learn behind Deshaun for a couple of years.
They're hopefully learn behind Jameis or anybody else but Deshaun.
They're stuck, unfortunately.
But no, I mean, we'll give a little preview here, okay? We'll give a little preview. There's a couple of teams that I could see going for quarterback. I could see the Jets doing it because Jordan Travis right now is still, he's still recovering, right? He's going to have the whole offseason. Yeah. But he hasn't played a snap in even the practice squad of the NFL, so we don't know how he's going to do.
But do you think these teams wait outside Shador and Cam Ward? Do you think they wait for guys in the draft? Do you think they wait for next year maybe? Because honestly, I know we're not big Shador fans.
No, if you have a chance at Shador, any team, Shador will, in my opinion, be a top 3 pick in the draft.
Do you think Jacksonville, if they also one would trade out with a team maybe like that might sneak in over the Giants and Raiders?
They could, and I got to be honest. There's other teams that I'm looking at that need quarterbacks.
Titans could use one.
Titans, the Saints. I'm not sold on Rattler. He's only played a couple of games, but he has not. Derek Carr is not impressing by any means. If Spencer Rattler was doing that good, he'd be fighting for that position right now. I think, and this is driven by my personal opinion of probably the worst quarterback in the NFL right now. The Colts need a quarterback. I think that, especially with the benching that they had this year, I don't even understand what the hell happened there. They said they benched him. They were doing it for the year and then they brought him back. I don't know what's going on, but look to see the leash get real short on Anthony Richardson.
I think 2026 might be the year the Colts might, if it doesn't work. The Panthers, by the way, I shot Bryce Young. I think that they avoid the quarterback situation. I think Bryce is starting to turn around a little bit. He's starting to play a lot better, and that's what you want to see from a quarterback.
How likely are you going to have that? And this is the thing is, if you're the Panthers, are you willing, if you got a chance to move up in a draft pick and maybe get to number 1, right, to get your guy like they did last time? I don't think they do that because they made that mistake already in the last couple of years. So if they do move up, I think they're not doing it unless they can do it without selling the house. They might take a 3rd best quarterback at that point.
And I'd
But
rather
are
just have
you
Bryce.
willing, if you have a chance to get a quarterback at 9, okay, Shador and Cam Ward are off the board. There are a couple of people that are worth taking. I don't know about a number 9, but are you passing on a potential, for something that probably isn't?
I'm just not a fan. Like outside Shador and Cam, man, it's like it's Milroe, Beck, and Quinn.
But what are you
and
more a fan of? Aside from recent decent play, which, if history serves correctly, we've seen this before. We saw with Danny Dimes in the beginning of the year, and look where he's at now. You know? So are you willing to risk another Giants-type season with the Panthers where you're building weapons? Xavier Legette is the future of this receiving core. Jonathan Brooks, the team is building.
Hubbard looks
You're not
nice
in a win-now mode, but a quarterback could drastically change a lot of things. But I'm also looking at who's the Rams' backup quarterback?
Yeah.
Stafford's getting up there.
There you go. There's your answer.
Stafford's getting up there. Geno Smith ain't got nobody behind him.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Jaron Hall because he's on my taxi squad, but
I'd have to look at the quarterback class in 2026 as well, because like that also drives that impact too. Is how do you feel about the quarterbacks coming in the following year? Because that's the thing is like how are the quarterbacks coming up in 2 years as well? I don't think Arch goes in 26, so like I think he's gonna have to wait until I think he plays 2 years in college to get his name out there. I don't know who else is available in 2026.
So a lot of it is going to come down to where the team is at and what kind of window they're looking at and where they're at with like putting together a complete product by that time, right? Because if you're looking at a team like Pittsburgh who is in like win now mode, all right, and you're not thrilled by the quarterbacks, you can't afford to have a bad year from Fields and Wilson next year. If this team is doing what it's doing and either one of them are regressing next year, you're risking your entire season, a season that has looked phenomenal for the Steelers this year. Don't ask me how. All right, I mean, I see how, but I'm still baffled that Russell Wilson is doing what he's doing. All right, but if you're in a position where you're like, okay, look, we're going to win now. Russell Wilson, we're going to give him the shot because we're going to give him a short contract. We're going to give him a shot because of what he did this year. But I need something that I can use as a backup because Justin Fields ain't it. I need to know that I've got a plan B because this team is going to be in win now next year. And are you going to wait and hope to God that Russell Wilson delivers all year next year? Or if he comes out soft like he did in training camp this past year and you got to start Justin Fields, where are you at? Like I said, you're risking a whole season. So you got to look at where you're at. You got to look at where your team comes to completion. If you're 1 or 2 years from contention, unless you absolutely know that you're going to bomb and have a top 3 pick in a draft next year or the year after, and you got to kind of plan that, right? Because you don't know if that's going to happen on any given Sunday. Look at Houston. Houston was set to have the number 1 pick last year until they fucked up and won the last week of the season like a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, they were supposed to have Bryce Young, and it was supposed to be the Panthers probably, it would have been the Texans getting him, and then Panthers probably would trade it with y'all, and then would have got C.J. Stroud. That probably would have been the situation.
They probably still would have traded with the Texans to get Bryce Young because that was their guy. That's who they wanted.
Yeah, but the Texans would have gone back to 9 though because they still needed a quarterback. I think they would have been happy with Bryce, and I think Chicago would have got a lot of draft picks from number 2 to number 9.
Oh, 100%. It would have been no different. It would have been no different. And draft picks aside, getting DJ Moore was the highlight of that trade. Because you not only got the picks, but you got an absolute stud.
Yeah, receiver.
Like that's hard to pull off. And that's everybody talking about Ryan Poles got to go. Honestly, Eberflus is not Ryan Poles' guy. But anyways,
no, I don't. Yeah.
There's a lot of teams that I'm looking at that could use a quarterback. If it's not this year, it's coming up in the next couple of years. That's like, hey, and when you talk about bringing in a guy that can sit behind somebody that's got age and talent, you want to get that guy in there now to start learning from him. You can take a Jordan Love from Utah State and make him the Jordan Love of last year because you got him sitting behind a guy like Aaron Rodgers for 3-4 years. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. It doesn't matter who you get. If you got the right personnel coaching this guy and the right mentors leading them, it don't matter who you pick, you're going to be a stud. We saw it with
agree
Aaron Rodgers behind Favre. We saw it with Love behind Rodgers. And Love is not having a terrible season. He's making some bad decision making.
He is. Someone's catching the ball and might be the defensive guy this year. That's the thing.
Somebody is. His completion percentage is through the roof, including the defensive catches.
Yeah, I saw a stat yesterday where it came to Jameis. He had over 600 yards completion because they're counting the pick six or the interception yards. I'm like, God damn, dude. Like, that's pretty fucked up. But, Doc, great episode, man. Tomorrow we're back with predictions, and it looks like it's coming down to it's me and you down. I mean, me and you finished 14-2 last week. Hey, I'm one game back. Yeah, crazy too. I was looking at the app for Pick'ems. There was 4 guys this week, by the way, had a perfect record. I feel bad for those 3 guys that did not win. You went 16-0 and you didn't win.
That happened to me twice a couple of years ago, 2 weeks in a row. I don't remember if you remember. One was I forgot to make a pick on the Browns game because I remember you called me and I told you right after kickoff. That's what pissed me off. It was right after kickoff I told you I would have taken, and it was still too bad. And then the other one, holy shit. You want to see – did you see the score between me and Jake in redraft?
Yeah, that's why I was so Jake was supposed to win.
He was supposed to win by like 35.
So Jake lost by 0.16. And because of that, now he's not the 6th. If he would have won, he'd been the sixth seed. By the way, shout out to myself. Right now, me and Wade, by the way, in both leagues are 1 and 2. But I have a first round bye. It doesn't say in the ESPN, but I'm going to have it in ESPN because of the points for and all that and the head to head. So I will have the first round bye in redraft, and I am the 1 seed in Dynasty. So I'm living high right now in both leagues. And by the way, in redraft, Doc, in my league's history, both years I made the playoffs. I've only made the playoffs twice out of 7 years or 8 years. Both years I made the championship. So just saying, there's a chance I might make the championship now.
What's the tiebreaker? Points scored?
It's head to head, but if there's multiple people that are tied that all beat each other, then it's points for. So right now but you're playing for the shipping fee for the belt. And this is the last week. So if there's no losers bracket because we established that last year. Whoever's in last place after this week pays the shipping fee for the belt. Unless Luke wins it, then it stays with Luke. But yeah, Doc, tomorrow night, hopefully we get some other guys in here. We're gonna predict the games. Like I said, we are in the final month, Doc, of the NFL. We're gonna preview the college football conference championship games too. The Power Four, and then we'll preview the Mountain West because most likely the winner of UNLV and Boise State will get in unless somehow they push Army over if they win the AAC. But, Doc, can't wait to be here tomorrow. Glad you're doing good. Glad you're at better spirits now after Thanksgiving weekend. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. I'm Mark Davis. That's Nick the Doc Skirkwins. This is All About the Boss podcast. Good night. We are out.